Well, happy Sabbath, Shabbat Shalom, and welcome to the Sabbath services for this 20th day of the 8th month on God's holy sacred calendar. It's the 4th day of November 2023. And again, thank you very much to Mr. Joe. I have to comment on this. I appreciate this so much that Mr. Joe took the pages from Arthur Spear's comprehensive Hebrew calendar that we need for contrasting the civil calendar, the Roman Gregorian calendar dates with God's holy sacred calendars. And we do this and we announce the date on God's holy sacred calendar, the Hebrew calendar, because this is going to be the calendar of the future. I mean, we are looking forward to the day when Jesus Christ returns to usher in and restore God's government back to this earth. And when he does, he'll be coming as a rock from the sky, as pictured in Daniel, and he'll be crashing onto the feet, the 2 feet with the 10 toes made of miry clay and iron mixed together. And, you know, those things don't really combine. They don't stick together. But those 2 feet, those 10 toes and those 2 feet and on the 2 legs representing the Roman government is the end of world ruling governments that began back with the head of gold on that big statue from Daniel 2 that represents world ruling governments, as I said, back to King Nebuchadnezzar, the head of gold, and through the Media-Persian Empire and the Greek Empire, and then the Roman Empire that conquered the Greeks. And where we are today, with all the governments of the world that are basically following the Roman government. I mean, look, practically every nation on earth has adopted the Roman calendar. And if that doesn't tell you what government they're following, the Roman government, then you got your head in the sand if you don't see that. Okay, so... And right now, as we live in this world with all the nations following that Roman calendar, our bosses tell us to come to work on a certain Roman calendar date. We have to be familiar with this calendar. In fact, we're so familiar with it, sometimes we're ignoring the calendar that does now exist, that the Jewish people have kept. And thanks to the work of Arthur Spear, it's been very well kept and worked out. And he's got these pages in his book that cross-reference the Roman civil calendar dates with the dates on the Hebrew calendar, God's holy sacred calendar. And that's helpful to us because if we want to know, how long it is between now and the next holy day, when you know from the Bible that the next holy day is the 14th day of the first month, well, I should rephrase that. I should say the next feast day, because Passover, the first feast day of the year, is not a holy day. You can work on that day. You can do the Passover memorial service at home with the head of household conducting it. So there's not a commanded assembly with a minister of God needing to be present for the Passover memorial. Although we've traditionally done it that way in the past, we've met together under your local minister, and that can be a good way to do it. We offer that service online, so you can just tune in and have the things you need at home and follow along. And we usually play Mr. Armstrong's last Passover memorial service that he conducted in Pasadena. And we want to think ahead to the next feast day, followed by a holy day. Immediately the next day at sunset, at the end of Passover at sunset, becomes the first holy day of the year, the first day of unleavened bread. It's the second feast, and in that second feast it has 2 holy days. So when we get to the third feast is also the third holy day of the year, and then everything evens out after, I don't know if God thought about that. I think he may well have. He shows himself to really deeply think about things. And because we may think about it, well, is the first holy day the first feast day? No, it's not. The first feast day is Passover. But to help our thinking and to have the holy days and the feast days line up, by the end of the second feast, there have been 2 holy days. So then they line up. Third feast is third holy day. Fourth feast is fourth holy day. Fifth feast is fifth holy day. Sixth feast is sixth holy day. Seventh feast is the beginning of the Feast of Tabernacles, and that's the sixth holy day of the year. And then after the Feast of Tabernacles is over, the 8th day of the feast, the 7th feast of the year, is the 7th holy day of the year, the last great day. On this last great day, the last great day this year, on October 7 on the Roman calendar, 2023, we have the situation where the terrorist organization known as Hamas did some atrocious murdering of people in Israel. And we're seeing some after effects of that. And we're going to pick up and continue today where we left off last night, going through an article written by God's end-time apostle Herbert Armstrong that's entitled, "Will the Middle East Crisis Lead to World War?" An article that, well, let me rephrase this. Well, let's put it that way first. An article that was written back in 1957, but is answering a question that many people, including many brethren, are asking today. Will that crisis in the Middle East lead to world war? That's a question people are asking right and left today. And are we ever seeing a situation where people are lining up on one side or the other side for or against Israel? And it's forcing people that might have just been walking down the middle of the road to take sides. And interestingly, in the news this morning was a story. Just before I came on, I was hearing a Fox News announcer report about former Secretary of State, former First Lady of the United States, Hillary Clinton, speaking at Columbia University and having a bunch of students there actually protest against her because even though she takes a very much leftist side, she does seem to saddle up with Israel, at least from the news story this morning I was hearing. And some of the students that are taking an extreme left position, that are siding up against Israel. And you know, brethren, I think many of you know who know the history of the United States, or anybody who may be listening in, friends. If you know the history of the United States, when the Founding Fathers founded this country and set forward in its Constitution a great freedom respecting religion, they did so with regard to the Christian, so-called professing Christian religions, of which there are many denominations. And so they were saying, well, we're not going to let any one denomination have precedence over another as far as our governing ourselves go. But we are basically a Christian nation as our founding fathers started it out. It was not the intent of the founding fathers to open up confusion to the degree that you would have respect of everybody's crazy so-called religious ideas, but to allow for the differences among professing Christians themselves, which we have. You know, and many people try to camouflage over the differences and saying, well, it doesn't matter how you get to Christ, just as long as you get there, as some of them say. And, you know, brethren, you should know you've got to do what Christ said and walk as Christ walked. And some of the ones that say, well, let's get to Christ some other way, other than the way he said get to him, which includes being called and drawn by our Father. as John 6:44 says, none can come to Christ except the Father draw him. Well, I didn't mean to get off into a sermonette just yet. I actually want to start us out singing a hymn, and that's something I'm still working on, by the way, and it's taken just a little side hold for a moment. There's a German, I think that's German, yeah, the air. There's a German opening page that I've already begun some work on. We're planning on, as we renew the hymnal and the songs and the video display with scrolling lyrics of each of the hymns, we are working translations in 5 languages: German, French, well, 4 languages beside English. English, French, German, Portuguese, and Spanish. And so, of course, we're doing the titles to those hymnals in those languages as well. But if we open up, I'm not going to have us here in the English-speaking areas sing a German hymn, at least not yet, till we learn how to do that maybe. But I want to open us up this morning, if I can get the screen to go there. Yeah, here we got it coming up here. Let's open up with a singing of a hymn together. And then I'm going to jump right back into where we left off last night after we sing this hymn and pick up with where we left off in the article by Mr. Armstrong, God's End Time Apostle, written back in 1957, entitled, Will the Middle East Crisis Lead to World War? And following after we finish that, which will probably take about an hour to finish it, then we've got a half-hour excerpt from a World Tomorrow radio broadcast by Mr. Armstrong on the same subject. So let's all participate in the service together, brethren. And here in the United States, wake up together, because we did get started pretty much on time this morning at 10:30 a.m. Eastern Time. That's 9:30 where I am Central Time. On the Pacific Coast, it'd be 7:30, but we don't expect those of you there, unless you're real early birds on the Sabbath, to be with us live, unless you just want to be up and be with us live. But you can watch it later on the archive on our homepage at cogtv.org, which you can get to by typing sabbath.tv. It'll take you to COG, stands for the acronym for Church of God, TV, acronym for television, cogtv.org. It's a .org organization. That's our website address. That's not a church group you can join or become a member of. That's just the domain address for our website. And yes, we've got that covered with a business formation, so nobody else will try to take our domain. And it's the ministry of Jesus Christ through yours truly, trained by Herbert Armstrong, that we continue without compromise of the things that God, of the truth that God gave us through Mr. Armstrong. Let's praise God for that in Psalm, brethren, from Psalm 9. Let's all sing together. And those of you in the United Kingdom who join us live, beginning at 3:30 in the afternoon, people there having asked me, please be sure you're on before the Sabbath is over, Stephen, so we can join you live. I appreciate that, and so I get up early to do that. But for us here, some of us, this helps us wake up. And so whether you're afternoon in the UK or morning early here in the United States, let's all sing together. Psalm 9, I will praise thee, O Eternal. Everybody together on verse 1. Verse 3, everybody.